13. Votre horoscope du jour. Vénus et Uranus sont en alignement favorable.
Bande d'obsédés. Je sais pas où sont les mecs bien. Sans doute avec des filles bien.
Évitez.
Qu'est-ce qu'il y a, rapide?
Josephine is almost 30, but she is still single. The girl is self-conscious about her appearance and weight, but what comforts her is the fact that she lives with Brad Pitt. However, Brad Pitt is just her cat. Seeing a beautiful dress in a store window, Josephine decided that from today she would be on a diet. Unable to resist, Josephine tried on the dress, but none of the sizes fit her. Nevertheless, Josephine bought the dress, even though it looked ridiculous on her figure. The girl is convinced that her disproportionately large thighs are the source of all her problems in life. Men on the street always draw attention to it and give explicit compliments. Josephine as always was late for work. The boss, Gillis, tried to reprimand her for it, but Josephine didn't care. Gillis has zero authority, and his subordinates don't respect him at all. When he complimented Josephine's dress, she didn't react. Josephine has a best friend, Chloe, who always takes care of her appearance and is aware of all the latest gossip. During a break, Chloe shared with Josephine that Gillis was kicked out of his apartment. He heard the girls laughing at him. A new HR manager, Alexandra, was sent to the office to downsize the staff. Alexandra invited Josephine to have lunch together and was deliberately friendly. Josephine didn't like this condescending attitude towards her. Later, Josephine went for a jog with her younger sister Diane. Unlike Josephine, 27-year-old Diane has a beautiful figure and attractive looks. Sometimes Josephine feels that she was a failed experiment of her parents. When Diane announced that she was getting married, Josephine was so shocked that she crashed into a tree. Her worst nightmare had come true. To avoid looking worse than her sister, Josephine lied that she was also getting married. Diane asked about the guy, but Josephine mysteriously remained silent. On Saturday morning, hearing a knock on the door, Josephine hurried to hide food scattered throughout the house. It was her lover Julian. They seem to love each other, but Julian can't leave his depressed wife. While they were having fun, Julian's dog ate some scattered pills. After that, the pet fell asleep and never woke up. Of course, Julian was deeply upset. Josephine said it was a sign that they should be together. However, Julian didn't see any logic in that. He's not going to get divorced right now because his wife is in the hospital with depression again. Left alone, Josephine as usual ate to drown out stress and bad mood. Later, Chloe visited her along with two other friends, Cyril and Rose. Learning about what happened, Chloe advised Josephine to tell the sister it was a joke. But Josephine can't do that because she doesn't want to be humiliated. That's why Josephine decided to sign up on a dating site to find her perfect man. Of course, the friends helped her with this. Following Chloe's advice, Josephine went to a plastic surgeon. She is sure that if she changes her main flaw, her life will also change radically. However, the surgeon said that liposuction would not be suitable in this case. Dr. Marcello recommended the patient to engage in sports, but this option clearly did not suit her. On the dating site, Josephine received many messages from different men. So at work, she was not focused on her duties. Gillis constantly tried to talk to her and gave compliments, but Josephine was distracted by her virtual admirers. She left work early and went to a bar for a date with the first admirer. However, reality did not correspond to the photo. The second date also went unsuccessfully. In desperation, Josephine began to call all her ex-boyfriends, but none of them remembered her. So the casting of guys went badly. Tomorrow the parents will celebrate their 30th wedding anniversary, where Josephine will have to introduce her future husband, so she urgently needs to find someone. Having overheard the conversation between her and Chloe, Gillis said he could play the role of the perfect son-in-law. However, Josephine refused. She had never taken Gillis seriously. In the evening, Josephine made a final desperate attempt, and with a bottle of champagne, went straight to Julian's apartment. It turned out he had a son, and his wife was healthy. All this time Julian had been lying. Barely holding back tears, Josephine ate ice cream and wandered through the city. To distract herself from sad thoughts, she decided to take a ride on the Ferris wheel. However, it didn't help. Josephine cried bitterly, feeling deeply unhappy. But that's not the worst part. The Ferris wheel stopped because the amusement park was closed. Everyone forgot about Josephine. She tried to get out on her own and accidentally dropped her purse. It was too high here. Then Josephine opened the bottle of champagne and got drunk. Waking up was unexpected and heavy for her. Today is the day when she has to introduce her fiancé to the family, who doesn't actually exist. Unable to find her purse where the money was, Josephine stole a bicycle and arrived late at the restaurant, where the whole family and relatives had already gathered. Seeing that Josephine was without a boyfriend, everyone started teasing, being sure that she actually had no personal life. When in front of all the guests Améric asked Diane to marry him, Josephine couldn't hold back, and driven by envy, announced that she was also getting married. Supposedly her future husband is a famous surgeon from Brazil. Upon hearing this, Josephine's parents were delighted, unlike Diane, who envied that her sister found a more successful boyfriend. Meanwhile, the relatives raised a toast to Brazil and the engagement. Diane was barely holding back her emotions. At home, Josephine listened again and again to the voice message from her mother, expressing pride in her. Now the whole family is convinced that in a month, Josephine is going to Brazil with her future husband. On Monday, Diane came to the sister's office and said that she had ruined the most important event in her life. Witnessing this conversation, Chloe drew the wrong conclusions and thought that Josephine was going to marry Marcelo, the same plastic surgeon who refused her liposuction. Hearing that Josephine met the man of her life, Alexandra congratulated her and said she felt relieved. It turns out that Alexandra initially intended to fire Josephine but couldn't bring herself to say it. However, now that Josephine is permanently going to Brazil, the problem is solved on its own. Certainly, it was an unpleasant surprise for Josephine. However, Chloe genuinely rejoiced for her friend, being confident that she would soon leave for another country for a new life. Later, the friends organized a party in Josephine's honor and gave her an open-dated ticket to Paris so that she wouldn't forget about them. Josephine tried to smile, although she felt pathetic inside. At night, she called her therapist and said she had lost control of her life. The therapist advised her to fly to Brazil because a change of scenery could help change her life for the better. In the morning at the airport, Josephine assessed the full scale of her foolishness, but it was too late to back down. Her lie had gone too far. The friends came to see her off. Chloe promised to look after the cat. At the last moment, Diane called out to Josephine. She came here to apologize. All this time, Diane was sure that the sister made up a fiancé just to show off her superiority. That's why Diane reacted that way. Josephine had no words. Of course, she had no choice but to promise Diane that she with Marcelo would come to her wedding. Before boarding the plane, Josephine pretended to faint. While her friends waved to the departing plane, Josephine was taken away by an ambulance. First of all, Josephine went to her therapist for advice. The doctor philosophized for a long time and pointlessly, so Josephine left discreetly. Walking down the street, she pondered what to do next. Josephine can't find the courage to tell the truth to her family because in that case, everyone will consider her a failure and a liar. At home, hearing the clanking of keys, Josephine hurried to hide. As promised, Chloe found a tenant for her apartment, Gillis, who had recently lost his housing. Chloe was showing him the rooms while Josephine discreetly hid from them throughout the house. Finally, she managed to escape to the second floor and locked herself in her bedroom. Chloe was actively flirting with Gillis, but he pretended not to notice her hints. In the end, Chloe left, leaving Gillis to settle in. Later, his attention was drawn to a photo of Josephine. He hung the photo on the fridge. Chloe also saw Gillis cooking dinner and feeding the cat. It seemed he liked animals. In the morning, while Gillis was showering, Josephine quickly ate part of his breakfast. She noted that he cooked very well. From now on, she had to live secretly in her own apartment. The only one who knew the truth was Brad Pitt. And this morning he nearly turned Josephine in. Surprisingly, she even began to like such a life. For the rest of the world, it is as if Josephine does not exist, But lies are also a job, and Josephine is a novice in it. That's why she decided to turn to the most skillful liar she ever knew, Julian. He advised her to learn as many facts about Brazil as possible and create a legend for herself. Josephine had already decided that at the sisters' wedding, she would declare herself a widow. She rehearsed her speech in front of Julian, as if he were her sister. It turns out Josephine is a capable apprentice. Returning late, Josephine found that Gillis was already home. She had to wait for him to leave for work in the morning. Josephine did not miss the opportunity to go through his things. In the evening, Gillis threw a small party attended by all of Josephine's friends and former colleagues. She was ready to scream at the impossibility of tasting delicious food. Meanwhile, the friends dining on the balcony raised a toast for her. At that moment, Josephine called them and boasted about her supposedly luxurious life in Brazil. To get back at Chloe for bringing Gillis into her apartment, Josephine casually mentioned that they shouldn't have made fun of Alexandra and given her a hurtful nickname. Since Alexandra was present at the party, an awkward situation arose. Alexandra was about to leave, and Gillis offered to escort her. When everyone left, Josephine went to the balcony to eat as much food as possible. Suddenly it started raining. Gillis closed the balcony door, and Josephine was doomed to spend the whole night here. It wasn't until morning that she was able to get into the house while Gillis was in the shower. She risked being discovered many times, but so far luck was on her side. Seeing motivational psychology books, Gillis couldn't help but laugh. Sneaking away, Josephine met Julian in the store, where they chose a lot of materials about Brazil together. Josephine must be ready for her return. At the entrance to the apartment, she overheard a conversation between Gillis and his sister Jane, who brought the nieces for the weekend. Taking advantage of Gillis spending time with his nieces, Josephine entered the house. Seeing Gillis taking care of the children, Josephine couldn't help but feel touched. He would be a wonderful father. The next day, with Julian's help, Josephine planned to spy on her sister a bit. It seemed that Diane was really in love with Emerick. But Josephine was puzzled that after meeting with Diane, he bought another bouquet of flowers. Following him, Josephine and Julian confirmed that Emerick was having an affair. This broke Josephine's heart, and she went to a restaurant with Julian, intending to get drunk. The only thing Josephine doesn't understand is why Emerick needed to marry Diane. Josephine wants to tell her sister the truth, but Julian advised her not to interfere in someone else's problems. Josephine no longer wants to see Julian because he is no better than Emerick. They are both unfaithful to their women. Trying not to make noise, Josephine came home drunk. It was problematic not to make noise because of the high heels. Hearing footsteps, Josephine hid in the bathtub. It was Gillis, who wanted to use the toilet. This time Josephine didn't get caught, although she was closer than ever. Without even locking the door, Josephine fell asleep in her bedroom. The next morning, one of Gillis' nieces saw her. Josephine scared the girl, and later she heard her telling the uncle that there was a witch living in the house. Of course, Gillis considered it children's fantasies. During the day, Josephine went for a jog and then complained about life to a random elderly woman. Realizing that Gillis was the ideal man she had been searching for all these years, Josephine was determined to confess her love to him and tell everyone the truth. However, her plan was disrupted by an unexpected event, a costume party at Alexandra's house in honor of her 30th birthday. Josephine also attended, hoping that in a bear costume, no one would recognize her. At some point during the dance, Gillis noticed her and became interested. While he didn't recognize Josephine, her energy and charm instantly captivated him. They danced a slow dance. At that moment, Josephine felt happiness nearby. However, the idyll was interrupted by Alexandra, who said it was time to have cake. Suddenly Josephine received a call from Diane, who clarified whether the sister would come to the wedding with her fiancé. Josephine promised that she would be at the wedding with the man of her dreams. While saying that, she looked at Gillis. The next morning, Josephine's lost luggage was delivered to her address. Gillis accepted it. Meanwhile, Josephine prepared to try on the image of a grieving widow. Entering Josephine's bedroom, which had always been closed, Gillis realized that she hadn't actually gone anywhere. When Josephine entered the apartment, all her friends had already gathered. Josephine burst into tears, saying that Marcelo had passed away. However, the friends immediately made it clear that they knew the truth. They were deeply disappointed in Josephine and left. Gillis packed his things, returned the keys to Josephine and left as well. So she was left all alone, except for the cat. Josephine fell into depression, and even food no longer brought her joy. The mother called to say that Diane didn't want to see her at the wedding. Josephine reacted indifferently because she knew it would happen. The next day, she went to the office and waited for Gillis to come out. Josephine apologized, but on the other hand, she regrets nothing because it allowed her to know how wonderful Gillis is. He had been showing her signs of attention before, but Josephine hadn't noticed. And now it's too late because it seems that Gillis and Alexandra are together. At home, Josephine cried bitterly, throwing fast food packaging into a garbage bag. Suddenly the doorbell rang. It was Julian with his new pet. He told Josephine that he made a choice and wants to be with her. However, Josephine guessed that it was not him but his wife who made the choice. But Josephine allowed Julian to stay with her until he settled his life. Since Josephine had nothing left to lose, she went to the church and announced that she was against the marriage. Diane couldn't let the sister ruin the best day of her life again, and Josephine in turn couldn't remain silent. She told the whole truth about Americ in front of the guests. No one believed Josephine because she now had the reputation of a liar. However, as Josephine was leaving, the sister caught up with her, and they left together in a limousine. Diane was very sad because of her loved one's infidelity. For the first time, the sisters understood each other. Now they both were disappointments to their parents. Gillis came to Josephine's apartment to explain himself, but the door was opened by Julian. Flustered, Gillis apologized and left. At that moment, the limousine pulled up to the house. Gillis and Josephine didn't cross paths. At home, Julian prepared a romantic dinner for her, but Josephine honestly told him that she no longer loved him. Upon learning that Gillis had been here, Josephine ran after him, but he was too resentful of her and didn't even stop. Josephine tried in every way to get his attention and talk, but Gillis no longer believed a single word from her. Only now did Josephine realize that she didn't need to invent a life on the other side of the world. She just needed to look at a different desk in the office. Walking in the rain, Josephine didn't immediately notice Gillis with an umbrella. He decided to give her a chance after all. Thus they both found happiness in each other. Don't forget